The truth about the Battle of Lukaya. This was during the war between President Idi Amin and Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. In fact, the Battle of Lukaya was the last major face-off between the Ugandan armed forces and the Tanzanian army. And of course it happened at Lukaya. The reason I'm bringing out this history is because I saw that someone has tried to rewrite the real story, possibly out of shame. So let me hereby set the record straight. This battle took place between the 10th and 12th of March 1979 in Lukaya, which is located between Masaka town and the capital Kampala, the capital of Uganda. So in that battle, 2,000 Ugandan Marines confronted over 100,000 Tanzanian soldiers who were accompanied by approximately 10,000 so-called Ugandan exiles. That's the Yoweri Musevenis. So the Amin forces faced an enemy 50 times larger than them, and so the odds against Amin could have not been greater. What happened next was almost similar to the biblical story of David versus Goliath. The commander of the Ugandan forces was Captain Sule, handpicked by Amin himself for this battle. They planned the strategy and the tactics together at the command post in Kampala. Then Captain Sule got on a tank and went with his men to the battlefield, where he led the battle himself. He first broke the enemy's assault and cornered the Tanzanians in the swamps near Lake Victoria. Actually, thousands of Tanzanian soldiers drowned while trying to escape. They had not known that they were running towards the lake, a direction where there was no exit. So Captain Sule was ultimately killed in combat as well, but not before totally dismantling the entire Tanzanian assault, including the Ugandans who were with them. At his funeral, Captain Sule was posthumously awarded a Medal of Honor by President Idi Amin himself for his accomplishments against all odds. The entire Tanzanian army, together with their Ugandan exiles, hoodlums, were in total disarray, had suffered almost 30,000 soldiers dead, and those who could had fled all the way past Masaka town through Mutukula border post and into Tanzania proper. I was recently told by one of them that if it wasn't for Tito Okello to beg the Musevenis and the Tanzanians to stop fleeing, they would have run all the way up to Dar es Salaam. And actually they would have never returned to fight Amin again. The Battle of Lukaya remains the last battle between the two armies of Uganda and Tanzania, and clearly a great military victory for President Idi Amin Dada. That is possibly why, to this day, Lukaya is actually the most shameful episode for those who fought Idi Amin. I laughed when I read how they had rewritten the story on Wikipedia. They even award themselves a Medal of Lukaya, as if they had won, when in reality it is a medal of who fled the fastest. Never to be forgotten, actually, that episode by all those who participated and all those who saw them fleeing alike. There was nothing like that in modern history until the fleeing of Iraqi soldiers from Kuwait in the Gulf War. I can guarantee you that Tanzanians ran faster. Actually, they ran faster than Olympic gold medalist Kiprotich when the Ugandan army is chasing them. So, no wonder there is actually a medal for Lukaya. What changed the war back in their favor is the Russians. The Uganda Air Force received 4 brand new Tu-22 strategic bombers from Libya, huge supersonic jets. The plan was to pull out all the forces from the battlefield and carpet bomb the fleeing Tanzanians. That is when the Russian ambassador called my father and stopped Uganda from using the strategic bombers. He insisted that President Idi Amin first signs an agreement to quit the non-aligned movement and join the Warsaw Pact of Eastern countries. Had Amin signed that agreement, then last January's non-aligned movement summit would have not taken place in Uganda, and Uganda would not be having its chairmanship until 2027, chairmanship of the non-aligned movement. My father refused to sign and actually expelled the Russian ambassador. That was one of the last official gestures he did. Just when he was going to give the knockout blow, it is Russia that actually failed him. He had already withdrawn his troops so as not to hit them by mistake, and had given them a rest. So the Tanzanians actually saw nobody coming after them. They turned around after catching their breath and regrouping, and essentially walked all the way back up to Kampala. Of course, they came walking quite slowly. They never forgot the beating of Lukaya. In conclusion, it was not the Tanzanian army that defeated President Idi Amin in 1979. He had dealt with them quite memorably. It was actually the Russians that let Uganda down, and my father never forgot that. A bit later, the Russians sent one of those Tu-22s to Congo to spy on Mobutu. It crashed in the Congo jungles and was found by the CIA. Actually, what happened was that Mobutu had started a space program deep in the jungles of Congo. And now the Russians were thinking that Mobutu was working with America on ballistic missiles, while the Americans were also thinking that Mobutu was working with the Russians on some ballistic missiles. As you know, the technology of ballistic missiles and the technology of rockets for space is exactly the same. And at that time of the Cold War, nuclear war was so close. So they were quite edgy about it. So one of the Tu-22s that was already in Uganda, they were all piloted by Russians, was sent to spy on Mobutu's space program, and in the process actually crashed there. I think you can find something about that on Google. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the brief history of the Battle of Lukaya, exactly what they don't want you to know. And you can still check online and find the list of all the recipients of the Medal of Lukaya. Some of them are still alive, and you can ask them that you are hearing that actually they were beaten so badly they fled all the way up to Tanzania, and listen to what they say in response. I think none of them can forget Idi Amin from that day. Thank you very much.